December 12, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It looked like it sold off. Pretty much it was range bound, then it kind of sold off, moved to a lower range, and then it sold off again. So this is how I drew up the charts. There's only one piece of economic data, or one-time economic data came out, which was at 5:30 Pacific Standard. It's about right here. It was the core PPI, and it looks like the producer price index. It looked like it kind of created the sell-off, and then about 10 minutes later, it bounced and just kind of chopped sideways. Now, the volume is starting to pick up, but despite that, I wasn't able to find too many trades that I liked, and I was able to take one trade, which is profitable, but I did not have a runner. Again, the ATR was a little lower, so I should have probably taken that into consideration, just taking the whole position off instead of even attempting for a runner. Also, the situation of the trade itself wasn't that it wasn't trending because it looked like it was this red downtrend break and tested the low. So I was able to ride the second leg correction down. And in hindsight, looking for another big leg down maybe wasn't really going to happen, especially on a day like today. So should have just kind of stayed out of a runner chance. And there was really no setups that I could find early on. There were a lot of second entries, I would say, but the context wasn't correct. So no, no, I guess not a lot of trades that I could find. So the pre-market, things were already selling off kind of in this very shallow yellow down channel. Then it had a spike. This is where the economic data came out. So this is where things get a little bit more wild. And then there was this green up channel, break, test, one attempt up, two attempts up, and it kind of came back down, kind of a support area here. It looked like it was one leg up, pull back, second leg up. On the open, it created a first entry long, pullback. There's technically a second entry long here by the counts, but it's not very good second entry, not good contextually. And then if you saw a first entry long failure, I mean, even though it's technically a second entry long failure, there's no real setup here. Prices then started to move sideways. There's another second entry long here, but it's a bad signal bar. Second entry short here is inside bar. Again, not the best setup. Fail breakout, so you could combine it thinking it's a triple test. Fail breakout, second entry short. I don't like this type of second entry short because the inside bar, even though it closed really well and it looks like it's moving back in, for something like this, I would want a lower high inside the range just to be extra certain. And unfortunately, you don't get that. You do have another leg down, it looks like. Break, test the low, kind of hits this triple bottom, pushes back up. No real trade setups here. Also, you could say it's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but I drew this line after this price action had printed. So you really don't know that the second entry long here was going to be anything because it's kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere. It could be a failed breakout, or it could just be something else. It could just consolidate. So it pushes up, technically another new high. I found this downward red trend line, but I couldn't convince myself to create it into a good channel because this looks like it fit pretty well, but then you have this huge overshoot, which I don't really like. But if you put it all the way down here, it's not very meaningful because there's nothing happening down here. So I left it as a trend line going down, or downward moving trend line. The prices are chopping here. It looks like it's trying to follow down on this orange down channel now. Technically you have a new high. There's 4-touch confirmation, but here I'm not even thinking of going short just yet. I did have this range drawn, fail breakout here, kind of a corresponding fail breakout. I was hoping for a touch up here and reversal down, or if the trading range were actually lower, then I have 2 key entry points. But I didn't get either of those. Plus, I didn't really get a clean second entry to help the cause of thinking of going short. So it's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. You don't get a second entry long till way down here, and by then, there's nothing really here setup wise. This is the pre-market low, so you could be thinking there's going to be a failed breakout and move back into range. But what I don't really like about that idea is it didn't really go top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. It's just kind of drifting south. So it's a failed breakout here, but I'm thinking maybe this orange down channel is still going to be in play. So no real trade there. It does keep going south, makes a double bottom. You have a first entry short, and then you don't really get a second entry short till about right here. But by then, the setup, it's not the most clean. It's just kind of far from the EMA. Maybe this red down channel is going to come into effect, and this could be new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, this could be a lower high. So this lower high, I wasn't too excited about it, but if you took it, you could have gotten filled. And here, it looks like it would have stopped you out. And if it didn't stop you out, this one would have stopped you out. So there was no real trade setup that I liked here, so I didn't even mark it. Prices are moving up on this nice green up channel. Unfortunately, there was no real way to enter it. And I'm looking back to the left. And right now, price action is just very choppy. Nothing very obvious. Not too many high probability setups. So it's just kind of slow and grinding right now. Prices then move, breaks out of the green channel, tests the high, first attempt up. Now it makes a second attempt up. So I saw this, and I thought it was a second entry short because you had localized new swing low, first entry short, pull back, second entry short. So when you see this, I was tempted to try to jump on this trade, but in hindsight, I wanted to see because it's like a really small candle. It's only half a point or 2 ticks, which is tiny, right? Unheard of. 2,000 trades happened, really tiny candle. And the volume was 3,000. So 3,000 contracts are traded in this tiny little candle that failed to really move it anywhere. Then you get this nice strong reversal down. You could say the uptrend has played out. First entry long, excuse me, break of this green up channel, first attempt up, second attempt up, first entry short, second entry short. I wanted to see what would happen. So this makes a double bottom. Now I'm very cautious because it looked like it had trouble pressing it down. So sellers are having trouble breaking through this line. It is a bearish bar. It mirrors this one, but the open and the close are even closer now. So I marked it, but I didn't even think it was an almost trade. It just like felt very dangerous. Then here, if you decide to go short, you would have gotten a fill here and then probably gotten your scalp here. But after seeing this, so I'm thinking, okay, there might be a short here. It's a really small signal bar risk. If you try to enter 1 tick below, this wouldn't have filled you. And when I see this, I would have canceled my order. If I hung around, you would have gotten filled here and I would have gotten the trade. But this felt like there's too much indecision. I wasn't really sure. I'm glad I didn't do anything. It's just kind of leave it alone type of situation. Prices move down, breaks below the EMA. Technically have a new high. It's a first entry long. You have a second entry long that's hidden right here because it actually breaks below and pushes back up. But it's very congested. I just didn't like that. These candles have bodies that are just too neutral. Prices then continue moving up. It just gets whippy. You do have another new high here, count resets. It's a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. It's not really a good signal bar to go long on. And this is very slow, sluggy movement. I just didn't really like this. Look at this. This is 60.80 to 60.83. So this over pretty much 10 minutes has only moved roughly 3 points. So that's a lot of trades happening, a lot of candles here that pretty much showing this. It's not quite a trading range, but it's very indecisive. Prices continue moving up, moves up on this yellow up channel, creates a new high, and then it creates a triple test here. It's because 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. It's a new high. It's a first entry long. It creates a triple test. There was no way that I could have seen myself entering this. And then after it flushes down, I'm not going to take it at the low of this because the trade feels like it's been done if I didn't try to enter here, but there's no justification to enter it here. And if you did try to enter, you would have been 1 tick. You might have gotten entered here, and then you'd be sitting in this big, choppy, whippy, pretty much range. Because if you look at these next 6 candles so far, they're all pretty much, except for this guy, within the range of this big candle. So it's having trouble. There's a tug of war. EMA is not helping at all because it's just flatlining. Then it finally breaks through. So would you have gotten short? Would you have gotten long? It's hard to say. Here, your biases might be going short, but you'd have to sit through this noise. And there wasn't even a good justification to take this trade. Prices then move. I first found this green trend line, which I turned into a channel. And I started moving aggressively down. I thought there might be an overlapping red down channel here. What bounces off, it's a break of this red down channel. It kind of breaks through this green down channel. And I was playing with the idea maybe it's actually here or it's actually tighter here. When it's actually up here, it didn't really add much value because it already broke out and it kept going. So then I extended it, made it wider here, broke out a second time. And I was thinking, could it actually be maybe something down here? I wasn't sure at the time, so I didn't lend too much credibility to the support side of this green down channel. So I'm going to go ahead and put it here for now. You have first entry short, pull back, And then it creates the second entry short. And actually, I like this trade, so I decided to take it. It's a break of this red down channel. One attempt up, pull back, made a second attempt up all in this candle. It failed and closed, engulfing the previous trigger. This trigger bar closed below the signal bar and it closed at the low. I really like that. I'm expecting a test of the low, enough to push down for at least 1 point. This blue trading range doesn't exist yet, so I wasn't really thinking about a support area here. So I entered at the lows of this candle. This candle is about 9 ticks. And I got my quick 1 point scalp, right matching the lows of here, which I was pretty happy with. I moved my runner. My runner is actually 1 tick above this guy. And then I moved it to 1 tick below my entry for free trade. Pushes down. I'm hoping it'll keep going. And it comes back up and takes out my runner. As I said, in real time, I should have considered that, hey, the ATR, right now the ATR, the market's closed, but the ATR was a little low. So I should have just considered maybe no runner today. Plus, it already made this big move. One attempt down, push up. This could be the second attempt down. Is it really realistic to think I'm going to get a really big runner out of this, out of a kind of a boring, bouncy day like this? In hindsight, no. I should have just taken the whole position off, take the whole thing off, be done with it. But I was playing the runner, and unfortunately, the runner didn't yield anything. But it was a free trade. Prices then break out of this green down channel. So this red down channel has tested the low. This green down channel had overshoot here, or it could still be within the channel. I don't know. And it's breaking out. So you don't really get a first entry short till about right here. And then you also get a first entry long. And here you get a second entry short, but it wasn't it's kind of far. Look, it's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. It's a doji bar. I'm not the biggest fan. EMA is flattening, so it doesn't add any extra key entry point reliability. I'm not I'm not really sure what's going on. I didn't quite have this trading range drawn yet. I had a support line drawn here, and I was thinking maybe there's a resistance up here, but it's just too early to trust that this is actually in a range just yet, or in a obvious range, because in the pre-market highs and lows, it's in this big range, but it's just not doing much. It's a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long. I'm not thinking of going long here. I finally saw, okay, it's probably creating a triple test bounce, confirmed here, but I'm just not the biggest fan of this setup. I want a higher low. And you don't really quite get that. You technically have a higher low here, but then by the time this is confirmed right here, I'm not really liking this trade anymore. Prices then continue moving up. So I have an idea that this is some kind of support. It kind of comes up and touches a resistance up here, but it's only really 2 touches. You could argue maybe there's a third touch here, starts here, 1, 2, 3, but it's really wide and far ranging. So I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. It's a new high, first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here, but I don't like that this is a doji. Inside bar, risk is small. It does confirm. And here, if you took it, it's debatable whether you would have gotten really a 1 point scalp out of this. You'd have to sit through this noise, and eventually, maybe way over here, you would have gotten your 1 point scalp, or I would have gotten my 1 point scalp. But yeah, that's just, it doesn't look very enticing as a trade. So it comes back down. Now I'm trusting this as a resistance of the top of the trading range because it looks pretty reliable now. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, maybe a 4th touch to start it over here. Starts pressing down. It's first entry long. Technically, have a second entry long here, possible second entry long. Break of the screen down channel, test the low, potential 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, potential triple test. I'm not going to take a trade on this though because it's too doji for me. Flashes up, would have worked though. It's noisy again. New high, say first entry long here, but if you see a visual first entry long pullback, second entry long, but then it just gets so many dojis and so many candles, and a lot of them are already dojis. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just noisy. Breaks down, and outside this trading range that I've established, I wasn't trusting this orange down channel too much, but it's what I used kind of the best fit. But I was hoping it just get clear of this yellow down channel, orange down channel range completely to just set up something more clean. The new low here, double bottom, first entry short, pull back, and it creates a possible trade I thought was like a second entry short here. Excuse me. Now, yes, this orange down channel isn't very reliable, but this green up channel looks a little cleaner. It's a break. Depending on how you drew it, you could say it tested a high. So it could be break here, one attempt up, maybe the second attempt. It's also a new low, first entry short. It's about to create a second entry short. It could be a failed breakout pullback of this blue trading range. But you have to be careful because the pre-market low is right here, which, didn't really have too much trust or reliability, but there was some kind of reaction here and here early on. So it was maybe a second entry short that I thought was showing up. By the time it flushed down, it's already too late because this would have been a harder entry to have taken and gotten reliable fill on. You'd have to trust the setup so much you'd just kind of jump in on it. And I wasn't really sure. Right, so then continue moving down. Looks like it's kind of floating inside this red down channel. There's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, no signal bar break above and a flush down, so there's no real setup here. First attempt up, second attempt up. So here creates so it's this red down channel, it's kind of not, I didn't color it in because I don't quite trust it yet, but it's a break and I'm expecting a test of the low. This green up channel has a break tested once up, made a second attempt up. So I'm thinking, okay, and it made a new high. It's having trouble breaking through the EMA completely. It's a new low, visual first entry short, potentially another visual second entry short. First entry short, second entry short by the count is much more. So first entry short, second entry short, count resets here. First entry short, potential second entry short depends on what the next candle is going to do. It's a good signal bar. It's about to break below. I think it's a possible trade. I would have liked it if it actually closed lower. Then I probably would have put my entry at the low of this candle, but then I would never have gotten filled. But it is a possible trade. Pushes down. It looks like it would have been just enough for a 1 point scalp. Anything more and you would have gotten stopped out here. It's a new high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long. It's a good second entry long signal bar bouncing off the midline of this potential range. But if you didn't have the range drawn, it's not very obvious. So it just doesn't feel very safe. Plus the second entry long, you're inside a range. So it could be one leg down break and tested the leg down, which is kind of what it did. It kind of chopped sideways. Again, it hits the low. Things are just getting noisy. And if you just look back to the left, I just kept looking back and I'm thinking, what is happening today? Today is just this really choppy price action. It's just 20-point range, not much happening. A lot of second entries that kind of fake you out. So I wasn't that enthusiastic about today for sure. And then it's kind of getting to the last hour of the day, and I'll admit my brain had just been kind of gotten tired, fatigued from staring out at this, really, really small, not really busting out trending. Even the trading ranges aren't super reliable. Maybe right here and right here, but everywhere else it wasn't just very clean. So I was just kind of, I think, mentally fatigued on what I was seeing. We do have a new low. It's the first entry short, second entry short here. I mean, you see what happened previously is a doji and another doji. It just feels congested. This movement is only 3 points. So I'm not that enthusiastic about trying to jump in on anything here. It moves up, kind of hits what I think is the top of the range now. And there's a failed breakout here. Your first entry long, technically you have a second entry long. The signal bar isn't very good. Again, it respects the high. So if this setup had actually been earlier in the day, I would have considered taking some trades. But this is entering the last 10 minutes. Starting here is the last 30 minutes. And I'm not that enthusiastic or feeling confident taking any trades back here, especially if I already had a one winning trade today. So it's kind of like hang up the hat, just ride it out. The new high, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here. It's not a good signal bar. Even if it's second entry long, it's range rules. So you're thinking it's going to move back to the other side. So there was no real justification to take a second entry long. You're looking for a second entry long potential failure to reinforce the decision or the bias of the market moving down. And I didn't really quite see that. So, and it's the last 10 minutes of the day. So wasn't really just, I was just kind of cruising at this point. It just kind of moves into the close. So overall, it was kind of a choppy mess today. I mean, there weren't that many, in my opinion, for my skill level. I'm sure other traders out there probably totally killed it today if they just took a bunch of crazy trades or just entered and really, really chopped it through. I it was not the day for me to try to even do that, and it wasn't. it wasn't the easiest day, but it was easy in knowing that I should just sit on my hands, if that makes any sense. So hopefully that was helpful.